welcome to Marshmellow Reads. I'm Marcy, and today I'm going to do the mid-year freakout tag. I did this one last year and had a lot of fun, and I've been seeing it pop up a bunch in my YouTube feed, so I figured, yes, let's do this again. There are a lot of questions to get to, but first, go ahead and check to see if you're subscribed to me, and if you're not, consider subscribing to my little channel here. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Alright, let's get into it. Number 1, the best book you've read so far in 2022. This one was pretty easy for me. Well, there's a pretty good second place one in here, but the number 1 book I've read so far is Machinehood by S.B. Divya. I had to devote an entire video to this one, if you want to check it out, because I just loved it so goddamn much. I want to sing this book's praises all day long. Basically, it's a sci-fi that deals with human and AI labor rights and the gig economy and capitalism and the future of work and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it, and I think most people would at least get something out of it, so you should check it out too. Number 2, the best sequel you've read so far in 2022. Oops. I've only read a single sequel so far this year. Why am I like this? I don't know. I have so many series that I'm in the middle of that I need to finish, and I've only been adding more to that pile. So, the one sequel I've read is A Psalm of Storms and Silence, and it was pretty good. It's part of a duology fantasy series with inspirations from North and West Africa. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. There were parts of it that I didn't 100% love, but that's just more my issue with YA stuff. So yeah, it was a good time. I really should be reading more sequels, so I guess that's going to be a goal for the second half of the year. Number 3, new release that you haven't read yet but want to. There's definitely a lot of contenders for what I could have picked for this specific book, but I ended up going with Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This one just came out in April of this year, and I have only recently heard about it, but as soon as I did, I knew I had to add it to my TBR, at least in my radar vicinity. So this is a spooky, dark fairy tale sort of thing, and the basic plot is, after watching her sisters be abused by this shitty prince, our main character seeks the help of a grave witch, who then offers her the tools that she needs to kill said abusive prince, but only if she completes 3 impossible tasks. And I think I saw something about a fairy godmother, maybe werewolves, I don't know, I don't fully remember the plot synopsis. But just that introduction was yes, grave witch, let me know about her, I want to be her. I'm gonna read this. So yeah, like I said, the spooky dark fairy tale, I'm all for it. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Easy peasy. Hands down, this is None of the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I am a die-hard fan of the Locked Tomb series. This one is the 3rd book. First is the Gideon the Ninth and Hera the Ninth. Both fantastic. Still confused about Hera the Ninth. I should probably do a reread or maybe audiobook reread, because I don't fully understand what happened in there, but it was a fun ride. And I really hope we get to see more of Gideon and Hera, even though we're following Nona, I think. So yeah, we'll see about this. I want more spooky lesbians in space. Number 5, my biggest disappointment so far this year. Probably it's gonna have to be Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. If you have seen my May wrap-up, I have a whole little spoiler rant in there as well if you're curious about my specific thoughts on this one. It had a really interesting concept. It's a tiny cafe where you go, you can sit in a specific seat to get served coffee, and if you have been to this cafe sometime in the past, you can drink the coffee and then transport yourself back to that time when you previously visited, and you have, however long it takes before the coffee gets cold, and then, you do your thing. Interesting idea, good concept, but the 4 stories that we see in this book just had the weirdest vibes, just oddly misogynistic, and I just wasn't for it. It really threw me off reading it and enjoying it, so I will not be continuing this series. Definitely the biggest disappointment so far. Number 6, the biggest surprise. I could have chosen a few different books here, but I ended up going with Unconquerable Sun by Kate Elliott. I also talked about this in my May wrap-up. This was a big boy. I don't remember how many pages exactly, but it's definitely over 500. The audiobook was like 18 hours, and I had to go at like 1x speed for most of it. Towards the end, as I got a handle for like the story and the characters, I was able to bump it up to 1.25, but this thing is dense. It is packed with information and people, and I like that kind of story. It was just a little bit harder to follow in audiobook format, so I would probably suggest picking this up either ebook, physical book, but still, I think if you go slow and are okay with rewinding a little bit, audiobook also works. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this gender-swapped Alexander the Great retelling, and it's like sci-fi, futuristic, fighting factions, and I think the biggest thing that interested me was not necessarily the war and like that kind of stuff, but the character dynamics between Sun and all of her companions and friends and stuff. So that part was great. Can't wait for the sequel. Very good read. Number 7, favorite new author, either debut or new to me. And I ended up choosing Kayla Cottingham for My Dearest Darkest. And this is her debut novel. It came out, I believe, either like January or February of this year. I read it via an ARC through NetGalley. And I was surprised with how much I enjoyed this. This is a YA, and it takes place in like an all-girls school in like spooky New England. And there's like weird magic-y stuff going on with like kind of a curse, also like a missing band from like a few years ago, and I don't know, it has like horror elements, especially with the climax. I would say it brings in like some cosmic horror elements, and there's also like a really cute female love story going on. I really enjoyed this one, and it was both a surprise and also exciting to find a new author to look out for. So yeah, a very good one. Number 8, newest fictional crush. It was a little hard to pick one for this, and it's a little weird for me because I used to be the type of person that would crush just instantaneously, and especially like in fiction. But I don't know, I was looking through the books that I had read and nothing really popped out until I like sat down and like really thought through the plot and were remembering all the characters. And ultimately I ended up going with Priya from The Jasmine Throne by TASHA SURI. And I ended up going with her, one, because she's on the cover so I can see what she looks like, and she's gorgeous and badass. And she has magical powers and has like a really strong morality and does whatever she can to help those around her and does the right thing even at great cost to herself, and I really admire that about her, and she's cute. Number 9, newest favorite character. This is a fun one. I went with Sigurd from City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a very recent read for me. I just finished it early June, so you'll hear about this one in my next wrap-up. But anyway, he is our main character's, Shara's assistant slash bodyguard. Like a while back, she saved him from a terrible life of imprisonment in this very brutal prison. I mean, it is a prison, but like it was basically like a torture chamber. I don't even fully understand what was going on there, but she saved him from that life, and he repaid her by just devoting the rest of his life to her. And even though he did have like a wife and children in his previous life, he knew that because of what he went through in that prison, he was no longer the person that his family knew. So he thought that it was better for them to believe he was dead and then go repay Shara for her great kindness. So he helps her solve crimes and kick ass. And my current favorite scene of his is when I don't remember the reasoning, but he ends up stripping down to his birthday suit to face this massive divine monster. And wins. Like, he's just so absurd and funny in various ways, and I think he's a lot of fun. I've seen in some reviews people refer or think of him to be a similar character as a lot of Joe Abercrombie's characters. I've not read any of Joe Abercrombie's books. They're on my list eventually, but Sigurd does feel like he comes straight out of like a traditional grimdark fantasy book, and I love that about him. Number 10, a book that made you cry. So, unfortunately, I don't think any of the books I've read this year so far have made me cry, and I like crying. Like, I love a good sad movie or a sad TV show, sad book, but I just haven't really found one this year. Not that I've like searched for it, but none so far have done it for me. So if you have any good sad reading recommendations, drop them in the comments for me. Number 11, a book that made you happy. I have a good one for this. I have chosen A Far Wilder Magic by ALLISON SAFT. I had so much fun reading this one. I loved the romance between Wes and Maggie. They start off as like rivals, enemies-ish. Like, their personalities definitely clash at the beginning, but eventually they're forced to work together, and because they are both outcasts in this small town, that kind of like pushes them together a little bit more, and then they get to know each other more, and it's very sweet. I loved it. And it also gave me Full Metal Alchemist vibes in an autumnal colonial New England town. It was such a comforting read. I loved it. Once I am accepting more physical books into my life, I will definitely be on the lookout for a physical copy of this one, because I will definitely want to reread it, especially in the fall. Like, that's just setting perfection. Number 12, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Yeah, I haven't really bought books this year. Maybe a couple like ebooks, but none that have come to me physically, I don't think. So I have gone with the most beautiful book I have read this year. So with that little caveat, I am going with The Tea Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill. This is just so cute and cozy. I love their art style, and the designs for the different tea dragons is just goddamn adorable. Like, it was very good, and this is another series that I need to continue. So hopefully this will be a little reminder to myself that this series exists. It's adorable, I love it, and I should continue it. Number 13, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I am in the middle of my 30 under 30 challenge. I'll post that video here. But basically I am like 15 books down. I've read 15 of the 30 on that list. I'm in the middle of another 2, so I have like 13 and a half books to go on that list. Some of those books include Persepolis Rising, Kindred, The Fifth Season, Space Between Worlds, just to name a few. And I'm excited about all of them. I need to read them. It takes time. And for my Goodreads challenge, I have given myself the goal of 90 books in the year 2022. So far, I've completed 43. So I'm like halfway through. So yeah, I think I will make it to that 90 by the end of the year. Hopefully. And the last question, 14, favorite book to movie adaptation you've seen this year? And I'm actually going to save this one for a future video. So I plan on doing like an awards show video for my celebration of hitting 100 subscribers. Yeah, I'm going to save it for that one. And if you have seen any of my early videos, I think you have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to pick, because I'm not going to stick to just like movie adaptations. It's just like book to some sort of film TV adaptation, and I'll leave that as a little hint. Okay, that concludes this year's mid-year freak out book tag. I had a lot of fun going through, seeing what I've gotten done so far this year and comparing it to what I expect to do in the second half of this year. gave me ideas of what I want to put on my TBR outside of my 30 under 30 list. I hope you had fun playing along with me, and I'll leave it here. I hope you all have an amazing week. Do something nice for yourselves.